North Carolina running back Omarion Hampton posted this picture from the start on his Instagram. That's what these kids do. And it's so funny. Oh, nobody wants to play for the Cowboys. Oh, they're not relevant. Trust me, the minute he touched down in Dallas, I'm pretty sure he was ready to drop that flick on the Instagram, let people know where he was. And that is continuing the trend of some of these high-profile running backs that are visiting and on these 30 visits for the Dallas Cowboys. Guys like Trey Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, and even mid-round guys like Bashar Tootin, Brashard Smith, somebody who I really love. But let's get into Omarion Hampton and how he would fit in Dallas, because I think it's real. I think the Cowboys really do like this guy. I think he's on their radar. Now that he's a 30 visit, the truth is, if he's a 30 visit, the Cowboys, there's a possibility that they may draft him. Where and why, we got to talk about. So, Hampton is my third-ranked running back in this class, but he does have an asterisk because I think outside of Ashton Genty, he's day one ready. What do you mean, Foots? He's your third-ranked running back. Well, the truth is this. His body gives him that edge over a guy like Travion Henderson, who I think has a slightly higher ceiling, but the injury concern, Ohio State did bring in Quinshon Judkins to kind of ease the load and ease the wear and tear on Travion Henderson's body. They're both really physical. All three of these backs are really physical. You see a trend there of the Cowboys wanting a guy who can fork the load. Now, I got to tell you, 220 pounds, 6 feet, the athletic testing was through the roof. The jumps were through the roof. The jumps were like 90th percentile or 5th percentile. Really good percentile jumps, and you see that on field when it comes to his explosion. So we'll talk about a few of his strengths, but when he went and ran that 4.46 40 at 220 pounds, you got to ask yourself, would you draft him at 12? Let's talk about his strengths. For me, he's a big running back that plays big. Like, there's so many big running backs, even times I'm watching Ollie Gordon and he'll play with finish, but not all the time. There's times where a guy like Damian Martinez, he's big, but he doesn't always lower his shoulder on contact. Sometimes when you see him running through tackles, it's literally just because he's a bigger body than the defenders that are out there. Omarion Hampton, totally different. He honestly sometimes is looking for contact to a fault. There were times I'm looking at his vision, and his vision is probably one of my weaknesses that I have on him. There's times where I'm like, Omarion, you could use a jump cut, you could use a little bit more creativity. He won't do that. He'll just bulldoze through the pile, lower his shoulder, and he has that bag because one of the other strengths for me is his speed to power combination mixed with the burst is exceptional. Like, he has amazing contact balance for his size, and he's always falling forward. You would be hard-pressed to find a rep where he doesn't fall forward. And that's the thing that makes Omarion Hampton so enticing, because I think the Cowboys would look at him and say, here's a guy who can handle 20 carries a game. Maybe we only want to give him 15, but he can handle 20 carries a game. Fairly young prospect. He's only 22 years old, and the production is real. The last 2 years, 1,500 yards with Drake May. You think, okay, Drake May's leaving. This team isn't going to be the same. They weren't the same. The offensive line wasn't as good, and I actually have a note on that. But he had 1,600 yards rushing last year, and a lot of them came after contact. So here's a really cool nugget. 1.5 yards before contact per attempt, meaning he was getting hit as soon as he got the ball, and he was still getting yards after contact. So that means 75% of his rushing production came after contact. That's special. Again, it's not Ashton Genty numbers, but it's really, really close. Now, a few of my weaknesses for him, the vision. I wanted to see him be more of a creator. They run so many gap schemes, so much duo, so much power, where they're pulling guards and they're wrapping those guys out in front of him. There were very rarely did I see him bend it back against the grain, did I see him use the defense's flow against him and cut it back. I want to see more of that. The funny thing about it is, I think because he's so young, you can coach that into him. And he's stupid fast. Like, this is a guy who I saw his speed on film. It wasn't like the 4.4 speed surprised me. No, like, there's reps where he's leaving people out of the screen. So I think it's a vision, patience, and how he's coached thing. I also do believe he is a guy that reminds me of James Conner plus. Like, he has a much higher ceiling than James Conner. Who had James Conner? Clayton Adams. So I think that they would look at this guy and Clayton Adams, what did he say? Physical, mean, angry. Like, he used those type adjectives. I think Omarion Hampton fits that bill. Now, let's talk about where, why, and how he fits on this roster in this room. The Cowboys signed Javonte Williams. The Cowboys signed Miles Sanders. Neither one of those guys are stopping you from drafting Omarion Hampton. You could probably draft 2 backs and you will still be justified and just let these guys duke it out. I mean, poor Deuce Vaughn, but it is what it is. This is what I have to say. I don't think that Omarion Hampton could be Zeke day one, 100-yard games, because number one, we don't have that offensive line. Even though Omarion Hampton did prove that at UNC, he can give you really good production with bad O-line play, I don't think that he would be that. I think that what would happen is Javonte Williams would start, Hampton would ease into his rotation, and by the middle of the season, Hampton would be the bell cow, and that kind of will work in your favor because you would have a fresh Hampton going into, let's say, a playoff run that you could just, his play style is a lean on you, then he'll eventually pop one. He does remind me of Joe Mixon. I would be thrilled if he turned into Joe Mixon, and even taking it a step further, I really think he has some poor man's Nick Chubb to his game. Nick Chubb at his best, sign me up. Like physical, finish, can run away from you. So I think that Omarion Hampton, it makes sense. Now, would the Cowboys do this? Would they trade back into the first round to get him? Or would they trade back in the first round to get him? So move back a couple spots from 12. You would probably have to watch the Broncos, but move back a couple spots from 12. Get that 4th round pick back, maybe get another 3rd, whatever you could fleece a team for. Get Omarion Hampton, hit your other needs. This draft, I gotta tell you, it's gonna be fun, man. And when you start thinking about all these 30 visits and how all these things tie together, we will be prepared with this channel, you guys watching this channel will be prepared with whoever we draft. And I got a feeling it's gonna be one of these guys off these 30 visits. All right, I love you guys. It's your boy Foots the King as always. Got a loaded week for you all next week. Love you, man. Keep rocking. Peace.